What up, what up, what up? Danielaugustin here. Another episode of Multi-Hyphenate after week 12 of college football. Good stuff, man. Good stuff, man. Listen, I want to start off with Utah and Colorado. So, interesting to see Sheduer start off the game with an interception. I think that is really important for him to have moments like that because not just him, in general, college football players, high school to college, it's just that in high school, you don't always get taught up afterwards, after a game via, your film study, your film sessions, because it's not necessarily your job in high school. In college, this sport is your job full time. But I think it's important for things like that to happen because that's kind of the only way a quarterback can learn is to play poorly, whether that just be on one play or in a game, and to actually have dedicated time to evaluate what happened. So you're seeing different defenses, different schemes, and then by the time you get to your next game or on the next level, you will have seen some things that will at least prepare you more for that next game or that next opponent. So it's good to actually see him have moments where he's kind of got to struggle it, where he kind of has to struggle through. And Utah did a fantastic job when it comes to, I can see why their defense is one of the best ones in the Big 12. Their corners were playing out of this world. They were playing very well. They were draping the Colorado wide receivers. I'd never really seen the Colorado receivers struggle to get open. That's not really something that has been indicative of any of their play all season. But Utah was really competing, and they really came out there with a mindset that, if y'all are going to beat us, then y'all got to find a way to do it. And it ain't going to just be by throwing the ball down the field. Sheduer did eventually get some passes down the field. But when you get a lot of help from your defense, when you're getting help from the special teams, there are three facets of the game. And if you can win in two out of the three facets, then that gives you an amazing opportunity, amazing chance to win the game. And this game is a lot deeper than just one side of the ball. Despite Colorado struggling a bit at the beginning of the game, they put up 49 points. 49. So Colorado is winning in a number of ways, which is huge. That's very important. They're not heavily dependent on Sheduer, and they don't have to be heavily dependent on Sheduer. One thing I do love about him, his game, is he's playing the long game. He's playing the entire game. They did have that moment against Kansas State where 3 minutes left, everybody thought they won. But he's playing the long game. So when Sheduer does throw an interception, he kind of just jogs off the field like, all right, let me go look at the tablet, see what happened, and then we'll get back out here. So he's very even-keeled, and that's extremely important when you're talking about your quarterback and you're talking about the person that you need to have the most even keel energy. You need that from your quarterback. But I did feel like the Utah corners played a really great game. They're very competitive, those guys. They're very competitive over there. They definitely deserve a second look. I'm going to have to take a look at those guys a bit more in depth to see what they've been doing all season. There are a lot of guys that are getting slept on in college football based on the fact that their team is not doing so well. Not the fact that they're not ballers. Sometimes you don't have the stats, but your team's not doing so well, and you can kind of go under the radar. And people don't pay attention to you again until maybe you show up at the combine and you run a 4.2. So sometimes there are so many people that can get slept on in these conferences because your team's ranked 6th, 7th, 8th, etc. And it's just really, really nice to watch a game where you can see, like, man, these guys got pieces, man. Utah could have had a great season this year, but, injuries really, really hindered them. But that's neither here nor there. This is the year of the Buffaloes as of right now, as far as in the Big 12. And it makes college football more exciting. Nobody had Colorado ranked second in the Big 12 when it came to the preseason. Nobody. They ranked Sheduer Sanders 15 of the 16 coaches. That's where they felt like he was in the preseason. That's what they thought of him. Colorado's making everybody eat their words. Everybody, and I love it. This was a really good game, though. And I think this game tape right here, despite the score, this game tape, at least the first half or so, is a good tape to watch if you're the Kansas Jayhawks who play Colorado next week. Just to see how it is they were slowing Sheduer down at the beginning of the game. Just to kind of get an idea as to what was working for Utah. Utah did have 3 sacks on Sheduer, 6 tackles for loss. And I think that is really one of the most important parts of the game. Can you get pressure on Colorado? Can you play in their backfield? Because, you're going to slow down drives. You're going to force Colorado into 3rd and longs. And even still, Colorado had like a 3rd and 24, and they found Wester, got it to like a 4th and 6, and were still able to make plays from there. I think from there on 4th down, Sheduer got Utah to jump off sides, and he went deep and had Will Sheppard in the end zone. Touchdown on a 4th and long. So this Colorado team is scoring in a number of ways. They're winning in a number of ways. Very special, very, very, very special team. I think they're having a very special season, and I think it has a lot to do with the distribution on offense. Sheduer is passing it to every single one of his wide receivers. Yes, there's a focus on Travis, but not in this game. And it's important that they know that too. And it's important that they don't force feed him the ball. They spread it around, get it to the other guys, because you got a ton of other guys. Jimmy Ward didn't even play, and they still managed to put up 49 points. It's pretty special. It's very special, and it's really, people are talking about it, but it almost feels like they're not talking about all of the right things. I notice a lot, like a lot of the highlights that people were showing of Colorado after this game were specifically of Travis. It's almost like the media is focused on who Colorado's potential Heisman winner is. They showed Travis getting the tipped interception. They showed Travis making a very acrobatic catch, great play. And then they were showing Travis on his rushing touchdown. They weren't talking about Sheduer. They weren't talking about this defense that put up 4 sacks and 9 tackles for loss. And they weren't talking about the fact that Will Sheppard scored 2 touchdowns. And they weren't talking about the fact that Wester was the one that got this team ahead and really got the momentum moving in their direction with his 76-yard punt return. Didn't see them talking about that much. Didn't see them showing that much. And that's just a shame that, these other guys aren't getting the notoriety that I feel like they deserve as well, especially Sheduer. But at the same time, I do think it's important that other teams are constantly focused on Travis. If you're a Colorado Buffalo fan, or if you're a Colorado Buffalo, I think it's actually very important that the other team thinks that Travis is the only person to focus on, when really they're spreading the ball around, and they need to, because come next week, I don't really think that you're going to just be able to focus on Travis. I don't think you're going to be able to force feed Travis the ball. And I think Travis is going to need to be able to make plays on the defensive side of the ball, as well as on offense. But I think that's where he's really going to have to turn up. On the final drive before the halftime, Sheduer goes 13 and 14 and throws a goal line fade touchdown to Sheppard. Sheppard had 2 touchdowns, and they didn't run the ball a single time. They were really in their bag on this drive, and I think that's who Colorado is as a team. Colorado really runs the ball just to kind of offset the defense, just to kind of show the defense that they can run the ball, that they're willing to, and that you got to keep an eye on the running back in case I decide to play action fake. But Colorado really likes to put the ball in the air. It shows, and I think they're all the better for it. When the ball is in Sheduer's hands, I think Colorado has a much better opportunity to win games. I'm very glad they're not the kind of team that thinks they got to run the ball 25 times a game. This team is winning games. They are clearly in the driver's seat right now as it pertains to their Big 12 title hopes, but it's not going to get easier. Let's just be clear, okay? I'm going to finish up with a couple thoughts here. I came into this game expecting Travis to get an interception, and he did, but I damn sure didn't expect him to get beat on a route and give up a touchdown. Now, it happens. Every corner gives up a touchdown. I don't know a single corner who hasn't been beat for a touchdown or who hasn't gotten mossed before. It happens. The way he got beat, though, was a bit concerning. I hope he's humbled a bit. It felt like he was, just based on, at the end of the game, his energy a bit. He's kind of always a mild-mannered kind of guy. But, and I'm going to check to, look into the post-game to see if he had anything to say about that interception he got beat on. But Dorian Singer just ran right by him. I think Travis is accustomed to being able to make up any distance that he needs to make up. His vertical is ridiculous. So after a while, you're so athletic, you kind of get to just depending on your skill set. And, sometimes that can also be a crutch. And Dorian just ran right by him. I think Travis was backpedaling a little too much of this, while Dorian was even. And like I said in a couple of videos last week, a few weeks ago, I think the Kansas State Kansas State, Colorado video, or was it the Vanderbilt, Alabama video? If he's even, I'm leaving. Dorian Singer got up on Travis, and Isaac Wilson threw a very, very, very beautiful pass. Nobody could get to it but his wide receiver, and that's exactly what happened. I think Kansas Jayhawks next week are going to be chomping at the bits seeing a play like that. Travis is eager. Travis is he might try to bait you a little bit, but he's eager. He wants to make a play on the ball, and sometimes that's why he's trying to play the man a bit tighter than a corner would just play a man one-on-one, because the wide receiver is always, let it be clear, let it be said right here and, forever made clear. The wide receiver is always in an advantage. Always. The only time a corner is in advantage, has the advantage, is when his defensive line is dominating the other team's offensive line and making the quarterback throw it sooner than he wants to, because at that point, that means that the receiver hasn't necessarily made all the moves he's going to make or gotten to where he's going to get. And the quarterback is forced to throw faster than he wants to, doesn't have his feet set, and that just leads to all kinds of opportunities, candy in the air for DBs, right? So shocked to see Travis get beat the way he got beat. It's not just that he got beat, it's how he got beat. Getting beat on a deep ball is completely different than getting beat on a slant route or a hitch or any other route in the book, because ain't no second down after that play. It's damn. So I think that was important for it to happen to him so that he can kind of revise the way he's approaching these games. Coming down the pipe here, he's going to be playing against some very talented wide receivers. Kansas was the team that preseason everybody thought would be winning the Big 12, okay? And they're just now hitting their stride. And they have to win out. They need to win their next two games so that they can make a bowl game. They have two wide receivers in particular, Luke Grimm, Quincy Skinner. These guys are ballers. Ballers. There will be a mismatch when it comes down to one side of the field. Okay, Luke Grimm, he's your technician. He can run the hell out of a route. And he's very short-handed. Quincy Skinner, 6'5", lanky, can really get down the field, can get up and make big plays on the ball as well as somebody like a Travis. So you're looking at a mismatch either way you want to look at it. Colorado's going to have their hands full next week. Next week is going to be their toughest game. I know everybody thought it was going to be Texas Tech, and that was the last one, and they're just going to win out. When Colorado watches the game tape on the Kansas BYU game, I think they're going to see a team that's going to be ready to give them hell. So I'm really glad Colorado got this win, but they're going to need to get rid of this one very quickly. They're going to need to show up next week their best selves. This Kansas team is, in my opinion, Nebraska and Kansas State put into one. That's what this Kansas team is. They struggled heavily at the very beginning of the season, okay? Trying to get their offensive flow together, trying to figure out what kind of team they were. It's a shame that they struggled like that. I would have loved to have seen this Kansas team vying for one of these top spots in the Big 12 standings, because they're exciting to watch. They're a very talented football team, okay? So this game is going to be very huge for Colorado. This is the biggest game of their season. Every next game is the biggest game of your season. But this one right here is for all the marbles in the Big 12. There are a couple more teams in the Big 12 that are hoping for a Colorado loss so that they too can argue and make a play for that Big 12 title spot. Okay, you got two teams at the top with one loss, Colorado and BYU. The Arizona State and the Iowa States, they want Kansas to beat Colorado. Okay, and let's be clear, Arizona State is playing BYU next week. So Arizona State wins that game. We're looking at a very messy situation, a very confusing situation where BYU got 2 losses, Colorado got 2 conference losses, and now Arizona State can say we should be the team that goes to the Big 12 title because they got 2 conference losses. And now Iowa State can say we want to go to the Big 12 title. We got 2 conference losses. Messy. So both BYU and Colorado have to win out if they want to get to the Big 12 title. There's no room for error here. None. Okay? Just taking a look at the numbers here. Colorado, 405 total yards. Utah, 272. Colorado put up 340 passing yards, 65 rushing yards. And interestingly enough, Utah only put up 31 rushing yards. Colorado was really able to win on the line, both on offense and on defense. Clearly, Utah throws 3 interceptions, lost a fumble. It's a pretty messy game. Utah had 4 turnovers and Colorado had 3. Yet Colorado still managed to put up 49 points. Deion said it in his post game. They've yet to put up their best game. Right now, their best game has still been a struggle. They still play. They still have very sloppy moments. They still hurt themselves a lot. This team can absolutely be the kind of team that goes into a game and puts up 70 points on someone. But sometimes they have possessions where their offensive line doesn't show up, or possessions where Sheduer might hurt the team a bit because he's holding on to the ball a bit too long and they end up in 3rd and long, or they've been having a lot of issues with the center quarterback snap exchange. They even had a fumble this game in particular, and it was on Sheduer. He fumbled it. He just didn't catch it. Had his eyes up, trying to make a play quickly. Must have been ready to look at and make his read. On defense, they have played pretty well on defense, especially on the D line, the second level, and their linebackers. Not against Kansas State, though. Not against Nebraska. But they have played fairly well. Their DBs have played pretty darn well as well. But they have struggled a bit as it pertains to, most specifically, Sheduer Sanders. Shiloh, pretty good game. Forced a fumble with the sack that he had. Call it a strip sack, I guess. But he struggled. He hasn't really played well at all this season, at all. He hasn't really made plays for Colorado at all this season. Not in the passing game. He's not intercepting passes. He's not forcing fumbles on the regular. And he's not tackling well at all. If there was a stat for how many missed tackles Sheduer Sanders has, he would probably blow just about every other safety out of the water with that stat. So Colorado still has moments where there are some glaring holes on their team in the way they play. Their special teams has just now started to play much better, but they're still giving up a lot of yards on punt returns and kick returns. So there's definitely a way to beat this Colorado football team. And I think Kansas is going to be licking their lips when they play Colorado. Very big win for Colorado here. Huge win. Colorado has to win out. And they're doing a fantastic job as of right now in how they are winning games, despite how they sometimes start the game, or despite how they might sometimes struggle through a game. You look at this score, you wouldn't even think that they struggled at all. But in my opinion, the touchdown against Travis that Dorian Singer had, you can't afford that next week versus Kansas. Kansas is going to play Colorado much tougher. Kansas's defensive backs are a lot more talented than Utah's. I think Kansas's defensive backs are more experienced, and it's going to really matter what happens on the D-line when it comes down to Kansas's D-line and Colorado's O-line, and the same vice versa. A lot of times we're not talking about those guys. We're just talking about Travis and the quarterback. But no, these linemen deserve their own highlights. But, who's going to do that? Who's going to talk about the linemen? But great game, great win for Colorado. Great win for Colorado. Next week, Colorado goes to Kansas. That's going to be a huge one. That's one of the games of the week. There's 2 games of the week in the Big 12, and that is one of them. So, looking forward to see what you do next week, because that's a big one. 2 games left in the season for Colorado. Let's see if they're able to get to the Big 12 title game. They got to win out.